Welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into the fascinating, complex and often misunderstood world of ADHD. It's a condition that affects millions, but there are still a lot of misconceptions floating around. We're here to bust those myths and share some surprising facts about ADHD that you might not know, because understanding ADHD is about more than just labels. It's about recognizing the different ways our brains work and celebrating the unique strengths that come with it. So whether you're personally affected by ADHD, know someone who is, or just want to learn more, stick around. Let's get this show on the road. One of the biggest misconceptions about ADHD is that people with it just can't pay attention. This misunderstanding often leads to frustration and miscommunication, both for those with ADHD and those around them. But that's not quite accurate. It's not that their brains lack attention, it's more like they have a hard time regulating it. Their minds are constantly bombarded with stimuli, making it challenging to prioritize what to focus on. Imagine a spotlight. A neurotypical brain can focus that spotlight on one thing at a time, dimming out distractions. This allows for a clear, concentrated effort on a single task, making it easier to complete. But for someone with ADHD, that spotlight is more like a disco ball, flickering all over the place. Each flicker represents a different thought, task, or distraction, all vying for attention simultaneously. It's not that they're not paying attention to anything, they're paying attention to everything, all at once. This constant influx of information can be overwhelming and exhausting, and that can make it really hard to focus on one's task, especially if it's something that doesn't hold their interest. Tasks that are mundane or repetitive can be particularly challenging, so it's not about a lack of attention, but rather an abundance of it, making it difficult to filter out the noise and hone in on a single point. Understanding this can help in creating strategies to manage and direct that attention more effectively. Ever wonder why certain tasks feel impossible to start, even if you know you need to do them? A lot of that comes down to dopamine, the brain chemical that gives you that feeling of reward and motivation. People with ADHD often have lower levels of dopamine in certain parts of their brain, and that's a big deal because dopamine is what helps us stay focused, motivated, and, well, not bored out of our minds. When your dopamine levels are low, even simple tasks can feel incredibly difficult. It's like your brain isn't getting the reward signal it's expecting, so it's harder to stay engaged. If you've ever laid awake at night, your mind racing with a to-do list a mile long, you know how frustrating it can be. Now imagine that feeling amplified. You might have an idea of what sleep can be like with ADHD. It's not just about feeling restless. ADHD can actually disrupt your sleep-wake cycle. This means that even when you do manage to fall asleep, staying asleep can be a whole other challenge. This is partly due to the way ADHD affects the brain's production of melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate your sleep. When melatonin production is off, your internal clock can feel out of sync. So falling asleep and staying asleep can be a real struggle. You might find yourself waking up multiple times throughout the night, feeling groggy and unrefreshed in the morning. Imagine trying to shut down a computer that's running a million programs at once. It's nearly impossible to get it to power down smoothly. That's kind of what it's like, trying to get your brain to power down when you have ADHD. The constant mental activity can make it feel like your mind is always on overdrive, even when your body is exhausted. Chapter 4. Lost track of time. That's time blindness. Ever look up at the clock and wonder where the entire afternoon went? That's something people with ADHD experience often, and it's called time blindness. This phenomenon can make it feel like time is slipping through your fingers, almost as if the hours are melting away without you even noticing. It's not just about forgetting appointments or being chronically late, though that can definitely happen too. Time blindness can affect daily routines, making it hard to stick to schedules or complete tasks on time. It can be incredibly frustrating and can lead to a lot of stress and anxiety. It's a deeper difficulty with accurately perceiving the passage of time. People with ADHD might feel like time is either dragging on forever or speeding by too quickly, making it hard to gauge how long tasks will take. Imagine trying to measure out ingredients for a recipe without any measuring cups or spoons. You might have a general idea, but it's going to be pretty difficult to get it right. This is similar to how people with ADHD experience time. You might have a general idea, but it's going to be pretty difficult to get it right. This can lead to a lot of trial and error, and sometimes things just don't turn out as planned. That's what it's like trying to manage time with ADHD. The internal clock just doesn't quite work the same way. It can feel like you're constantly playing catch up, trying to keep pace with a world that moves at a different speed. Chapter 5. It's more than just hyperactivity. When people think of ADHD, they often picture a kid bouncing off the walls, and while hyperactivity is a common symptom, it's not the whole story. ADHD actually encompasses a spectrum of symptoms, including inattentiveness and impulsivity. Inattentiveness can show up as difficulty focusing, getting easily distracted, or struggling to follow through on tasks. Impulsivity, on the other hand, might involve interrupting conversations, acting without thinking, or having trouble waiting their turn. So, ADHD is a lot more nuanced than just being hyperactive. It's about the way your brain manages attention, impulses, and executive function. Chapter 6. The emotional roller coaster of rejection sensitivity. Imagine feeling the sting of rejection with an intensity that most people can't even fathom. That's the reality for many with ADHD who experience rejection-sensitive dysphoria, or RSD. It's not just about being sensitive to criticism, it's about feeling those perceived rejections, even small ones, with an almost unbearable intensity. It's like having your emotional volume turned way up, so even the slightest criticism or perceived slight can feel like a punch to the gut. This can make social interactions and relationships particularly challenging. Chapter 7. The dopamine drain of routine. Remember how we talked about dopamine and how it's like the brain's reward system? Well, here's the thing. Routine tasks don't exactly set off fireworks in the dopamine department, and for people with ADHD, who often have lower dopamine levels to begin with, those everyday tasks can feel like climbing Mount Everest with a teaspoon. It's not laziness, it's a neurological wiring issue. Their brains just aren't getting the same boost of motivation from completing those tasks, making it that much harder to get started. Here's another important thing to know about ADHD. It often travels with friends, and by friends I mean other coexisting conditions like anxiety, depression, and obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. It's like a buy one, get one free deal you never wanted. These conditions can overlap and interact in complex ways, making it even more challenging to manage the symptoms. That's why it's so important to get a comprehensive evaluation if you suspect you might have ADHD, so you can address all of the pieces of the puzzle. For a long time, ADHD was considered something you grew out of, but the truth is ADHD doesn't just disappear with age. Many adults live with ADHD without even realizing it. They might have spent years struggling with school, work, or relationships, attributing their challenges to personality flaws or lack of willpower. But getting a diagnosis later in life can be life-changing. It can provide answers, validation, and a path toward finally getting the support they need. It's easy to focus on the challenges of ADHD, but it's important to remember that it's not all doom and gloom. In fact, ADHD comes with its own set of superpowers. People with ADHD are often bursting with creativity, thinking outside the box and coming up with innovative solutions. When they find something they're passionate about, they can tap into incredible hyperfocus, becoming completely absorbed in their work. And let's not forget their resilience. They've had to navigate a world that wasn't designed for their brains, and that takes a special kind of strength. So, there you have it. 10 surprising facts about ADHD. It's a complex condition, but with greater awareness and understanding, we can create a more inclusive and supportive world for those who have it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you want to learn more about ADHD, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and remember, different brains bring different gifts to the world. See you next time.